then I became single. I became sexually abstinent after that. And I've been sexually abstinent since then because I just, I didn't know the Lord at the time. I didn't know that what I was doing was the correct thing.
Yeah.
But then when I met the Lord when I was 21, I realized, oh, hey, the Bible says to do this, and I'm already doing it. So this
Okay.
is
Yeah.
easy.
So you're
And
still waiting for that man.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And so that's in that period from the time I was 18 with that encounter that I had with the Lord, with that encounter that I just shared, that's when my healing journey started with the sexual abuse, with well, I was never promiscuous, but there was this sense of I hate men, like that masculinity pain.
Mhm.
And then this pain with just your my sexuality, right? Like not knowing what to do with it,
Yep.
not knowing how to be a woman, not knowing what to do with my sex drive, all these things, right? So I had been sexually abstinent for a few years, maybe 10 years, and then I discovered masturbation. It was an accident. I didn't know about that.
Okay.
Um, I discovered it and I told myself, "Well, this feels good." I intrinsically knew it wasn't right. Like your spirit just tells you this isn't right. Like you just know, right?
Yeah.
And I
It's like
discovered
if you feel shame about something you're doing, then you probably know it's not the right thing to be doing.
exactly, and that's how I felt. And then, but I still kept doing it. I told myself, "Hey, I'm only gonna do this for 6 months. I'm only gonna allow myself 6 months."
Yeah.
Those 6 months turned into, I think, 3 or 4 years. Okay, 3 or 4 years, and then within those, I think the maybe the second or third year, the Lord, I think it was 3 years, because the second year the Lord spoke to me, and He said, "I want you to stop." It was
Mm.
like it was another encounter,
Yep.
like another vivid encounter, and He said, "I want you to stop. If you don't stop, honey, this is going to affect your marriage.
Yeah,
This is going to
wow.
affect your marriage." And at that time, I didn't understand what he meant, right? Because I was feeling very disconnected from him. I was feeling like, you lied to me, you promised me a husband, and he never came.
Mm.
I'm sexually abstinent. Isn't that enough?
Yes.
Right?
Oh my
And so
gosh.
I felt entitled. I felt like I can masturbate because I've been faithful to you.
Yeah.
I've kept myself. I haven't been promiscuous. I haven't been sleeping around. I don't even date,
Yep.
right? And so I felt entitled to that. But because the Lord said so, I started doing research. I started to learn about masturbation. I started to learn, about my, women's parts, like what the vulva, the vagina, all these things actually are, because a
Mhm.
lot of people, a lot of the women that I speak to, some of the times they don't even know that what they're doing is masturbation, and
Mm.
they'll often tell me things like, "Hey, I don't have that problem. I don't have that issue." But then I describe what it is, and then they'll say, "Oh, yeah, actually, I do that."
So,
And then they'll
will you give us that sort of description that you would share with them?
yes. So, well, first of all, we have to understand like the parts of the woman, right? So
Mhm.
the outer part, like there's a little thing at the top. That's the clitoris. That's where you That's how I used to do things to myself. I
Mhm.
never actually inserted things to myself because I felt like that was violating God,
Okay.
right? So there's different ways that women do things, right? And often that's how women do it. I speak to a lot of women, like 40% of the women that I speak to are virgins.
Okay.
They've never had sex with a man, and that's how they masturbate.
Yeah, okay.
They use the clitoris. And so the outer part of your woman organ is called the vulva,
Okay.
the outer part. When you go all the way inside, that's actually the vagina, the inside part of
Mhm.
the organ. It's called the vagina. And so a lot of women think that if I don't insert anything inside, then I'm not masturbating.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But
I could
even if
see where that confusion would be.
yeah, so a lot of the times women masturbate only on the outside and they do
Yep.
things they stimulate the clitoris, right?
Yep.
Clitoris, clitoris, whatever. People say it differently. So the clitoris, a lot of the times women stimulate that and then they get orgasm from that. But because they're not inserting anything, they don't think that they're masturbating.
Yeah.
Okay. But that is also masturbation. Anything that produces an orgasm,
Mhm.
it's masturbation.
So that's exactly how I used to do it for the most part as well before God convicted me as well about it. So I'm
Mhm,
really interested to hear your description and your experience with that because I feel like because you've researched it so much, you have the data to back these claims up and the verses from the
mhm,
Bible to back these claims up. I had a
mhm,
personal example where God showed me that it was wrong as well, and I've shared about this on the podcast a couple times, but it's a little vulnerable, but I had been convicted that sexual sin was wrong,
mhm,
but then masturbation, I thought it was still okay for a time, and this is, like, right as I was coming to the Lord. I was not quite calling myself a Christian, but, starting to believe Jesus was real and the Bible is true, and I remember one of these days masturbating, and I had been up against so much demonic warfare because of sexual sin. But I was like, okay, it's because I'm engaging with another person. I'm connecting with their spirits. So I should be safe if it's just me, right? So I'm in my room and, I was doing my thing because I was depressed and like I needed a little boost. This is like why I used to do it. I was going through the start of my breakup of letting go of this sexually immoral relationship. And
mhm,
I remember feeling this wicked, wicked spirit enter the room. And I could just feel that, like, this was the same spirit that came in to me through sexual sin with that man that I had been engaging with. And so I started to realize even more about God's covering of the marriage bed and how when
mhm,
you open yourself sexually, you are not when you're not under the covenant of marriage, you're opening yourself up to demons, whether you're by yourself or with another person. And so that was like the day that I put on reckless love. I was crying, repenting, and like really understanding this thing then. So this is how I can understand um but I have the personal, like, I have just the personal experience, so I love that you have the data and the research and, more of the consequences to share about this as well.
yeah, yeah. I thank you for sharing that. I've heard your testimony before in your podcast, one of the episodes that I was listening to, and I do remember you saying that you felt like this spirit come in, like this entity, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never had anything like that. But I can only imagine how that must feel. But just having the with me, it was the presence of God
Yes.
was doing it, and He came and He said, "I want you to stop." And He was so loving and so patient and just so good that I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, but I don't really trust you right now, so I need to do research on this."
Mhm.
Right?
See,
Um,
you were a better kid than me. I was the kid that needed, like, the fear of the Lord, and he's like, he can just speak to you gently. I was in so much
well,
rebellion.
it took me a whole year to stop though. After that.
Okay.
It didn't stop right away. I tried the whole year to stop, but it wasn't like, "Bam, I'm done."
Mhm.
It still took another year, but in that whole year, I was researching, I was learning,
Mm.
I was, uh, I was encountering the love of God. That is so important. I'm so happy that you mentioned that you were trying to encounter, like, emotional fulfillment, right? Like,
Yeah.
emotional connection, love. And once we get to more of the questions, I'll talk more about that, but that's the primary reason why people masturbate.
Yep.
It's because we feel so disconnected from love.
Yeah.
We don't, first of all, love ourselves, and then second of all, we don't love God, and we don't understand His love for us. And I don't think we'll ever understand His love for us fully,
Yep.
but we don't even have like that little seed, right? The little seed. And so when we feel so disconnected and so unworthy, we're trying to fill those voids through through sexual things,
Yep.
right? It
Yep.
doesn't only have to be masturbation. It could be that we develop sexual addictions or, other sexual problems. But
Mhm.
pornography and masturbation are like the go-to things to try to
Yep.
fill those voids.